The purpose of this video is to introduce you to the process of meiosis. So we'll discuss the role of meiosis in sexual reproduction and describe how meiosis is used to produce haploid cells from diploid cells. We'll also look a little bit at the process of meiosis and how it differs from mitosis. So by the end of this video, you should be able to explain the importance of meiosis, to define the terms haploid and diploid, and to articulate some of the major differences between mitosis and meiosis. So meiosis is very important for the process of sexual reproduction. And that's because it's required for the production of haploid cells, such as the egg and sperm here. These are both haploid gamete cells, and these cells contain half of the DNA of the parental cell. And what I mean by half of the DNA, I actually mean half of the genetic information of the parental cell. So here you can see that we have two cells, two parental cells, one from the mother, one from the father, and these cells are diploid, so they have pairs of chromosomes. So these pairs of chromosomes are homologous. So that means that each chromosome carries equivalent information, but the information doesn't have to be identical. So you can imagine that perhaps if this were a fruit fly parent, you can imagine that one of these chromosomes might be carrying a gene that corresponded to red eyes, whereas the other one might be carrying a gene that corresponded to white eyes. So the information is equivalent because both of these chromosomes are carrying the gene for eye color, but the information differs between the two homologous chromosomes. So through the process of meiosis, we produce cells that only have half of that information. So this haploid egg might only be carrying the allele for white eyes. After fertilization, the new zygote is once again diploid because it has one chromosome from the egg and the other homologous chromosome from the sperm. So together, this forms a diploid zygote. So diploid cells contains pairs of homologous chromosomes, and these carry equivalent information, but not necessarily identical genetic information. So how does meiosis happen? So much like mitosis, before entering the process of cell division, the chromosomes have to be duplicated. So here you can see in our initial cell, we have our pair of homologous chromosomes. One of these chromosomes is maternal and one is a paternal chromosome. And then afterward, we duplicate this pair of homologous chromosomes, and now we have two homologous chromosomes, and each one is duplicated, so there are actually 4 sister chromatids here. And as you may recall from the mitosis chapter, the sister chromatids are the identical copies of the chromosomes that are produced by the process of DNA replication. So in meiosis, now we have homologous chromosomes in a diploid cell. So here we have our 3 maternal chromosomes, here we have our 3 paternal chromosomes, and each one of these chromosomes has a pair of sister chromatids. Now, through the process of meiosis, we first separate the homologous chromosomes, then we separate the sister chromatids. So we actually end up with 4 cells, 4 haploid cells, so they each contain only half of the information of the original parent cell. So they each contain only the information from one homologous chromosome. So how does this process of meiosis differ from mitosis, which we've already learned about? So first, if you remember from the mitosis chapter, mitosis separates only the sister chromatids. So only the identical copies are separated. Whereas meiosis separates both the homologous chromosomes, which carry equivalent information, and the sister chromatids, which are the identical copies. So because of this difference in separation, mitosis produces daughter cells that are clones of the parent cell, meaning that they are absolutely identical to the parent cell, carrying the same information, the same genetic information. Whereas meiosis produces daughter cells that have only half of the information of the parent cell, so only the information from one of the homologous chromosomes. And that's the end of this video.